Let's continue with the ComfyUI. Previously, I used an image as a reference to manipulate the image generation process. Now, I will be using a LoRA with stable diffusion and flux models to influence the image generation process and achieve the LoRA effect. This tab is for stable diffusion models, and the other is for flux. The load image node, upscale node, and VAE encode node were used for reference images, so I will keep it aside and use it later. The selected model is Epic Photos SD 1.5, and this is the image I obtain without using any image or LoRA. I will get a LoRA from ComfyUI, apply a filter for the SD 1.5 checkpoint. After searching for some time, I chose this SD 1.5 LoRA, which is quite old now. I considered skipping SD 1.5 because it is outdated, but there are instances when I need to use these older models, as there are certain capabilities that Flux does not have. I will save it inside the Models folder, and then in the LoRA folder. Additionally, I will create a folder named SD 1.5 for my own reference and save it there. Now, to use this LoRA, I will double-click on an empty space and type LoRA. This Load LoRA node will bring the LoRA into this workflow. The inputs for the node are the model and the clip, while the output on the right remains the same. You may ask why the output is unchanged. Think of the stable diffusion model as a meal, with the LoRA acting as a few spices to enhance the flavor. After using the spices, your food still remains a meal, so the output remains the same, with the LoRA serving as an extra enhancement. This node will be positioned between the load checkpoint and the clip text encoders. The model connected to the K-sampler will pass through the LoRA, following our analogy of sprinkling spices to enhance the flavor of the model. We can delete both of these connections because the clip also goes through the LoRA node. I hope this is clear. I will refresh by pressing the letter R and select the Pokemon LoRA. I should change the prompt, but let me try keeping it as it is. I generated the image, and it's different from the previous images. Returning to ComfyUI, I looked for the LoRA trigger words, but there is no information available here. You should be able to find them in most LoRA models. However, I picked a random LoRA that did not have the trigger word. Let's check the description. In the description, it mentions some trigger words for style, and I need to type Pokemon in the prompt. Now back to ComfyUI, I will change the prompt and type Pokemon here, then cue the workflow. The changes are visible, but not significant. Below the description, there is additional information, including a suggestion for the checkpoint. This means that the LoRA should work better with this checkpoint. I will download the checkpoint and save it in the checkpoints and the folder I created for SD 1.5. The checkpoint I am using is Epic Photos, which does not seem suitable for cartoon characters. I will refresh the checkpoint list by pressing the letter R and select a new checkpoint, then cue the prompt. There is a drastic improvement in the image compared to the previous ones. I hope you understand the importance of reviewing the description and suggested resources. You should also take a quick glance at the comments section. Currently, I am using the empty latent image as a canvas for the image generation process, but I will remove it. I will select these three nodes and bring them into the workflow. If you remember from the previous video, these nodes were used for image-to-image generation. I will bypass the upscale node because SD 1.5 requires 512 pixel images, which is the actual size of the given image. I will decrease the denoising strength and cue the prompt. As a reminder, the VAE used to decode will also be used to encode the image because the image generation occurs in latent space. The image I obtained here is not impressive, but you must understand that, based on the denoising strength, this image is somewhere between a realistic image and the cartoon-style image we generated previously. Now, you may be wondering what to do if I want to generate an image with the same pose but in a perfect cartoon style. In that case, I need to introduce a control net, which will make the workflow more complex. I will create a video on that. Let's change the model and use the SDXL model. The workflow remains the same. I will use the empty latent image first. Let's see what image we get without the LoRA, so I will bypass the LoRA node and cue the prompt. My mistakes will serve as lessons for you all. The empty latent image, or the canvas for image generation for SDXL, should be 1024 pixels. The denoising strength should be set to 1 when using an empty latent image. The image generated by the Juggernaut model looks good. Let me get a LoRA for the SDXL model. I applied a filter for the SDXL LoRA, and this glass LoRA looks promising. I will download and save it in the LoRA folder, and then in the SDXL folder I created. I scrolled down a bit and found this straw and thread LoRA, which I will try as well. Back in ComfyUI, I selected the bypass option again to apply the LoRA effect. I will select the glass LoRA and check if it has the trigger words. And yes, it does have the trigger words here. I will use these trigger words in the prompt around the subject and cue the workflow. It works. The subject is translucent, and you can definitely try this with the other trigger word transparent to generate a glass-like figure. This model strength controls the intensity of the LoRA and its effect. Increasing the strength to 1 should allow some light to pass through the translucent glass body. So that was the empty canvas we provided to the K-sampler. Now let me give it an image. The image generated is based on the empty latent we provided to the K-sampler. Since the original image is small, it should be upscaled. I will right-click and then click Bypass again to make it work. Now the given image size will be 1024 pixels. I will also decrease the denoising by 50% because I want the image to resemble the given image. I will cue the workflow. I hope you have understood the process so far. The translucency does not have much effect on the subject because I provided a realistic image with fur, and the denoising is set at 50%. So it's somewhere between realistic and translucent shine. I can either increase the denoising to make it more glass-like or decrease it to achieve a more realistic appearance. Let me add the second trigger word, transparent. Using both trigger words results in a somewhat glass-like, transparent material. The image is acceptable because we provided a reference image. As mentioned, if I increase the denoising strength, the subject will become more transparent, but the pose of the subject may change. The other LoRA I used, straw and thread, with the Juggernaut model, produced an interesting image. The trigger words are not present, so make sure to check the description and the prompt to get an idea. Let's look at the Flux GGUF workflow and use LoRA. This is from the previous video where I was using the Q6UNet model. Since it's not a checkpoint, I'm using different nodes for the clip text encoder and VAE. These 3 nodes were used for image-to-image generation, and it's a simple workflow. The images generated by Flux models are better than those from SDXL models, so let me use the LoRA. I applied a filter for Flux 1dev and scrolled a bit for LoRA. This looks interesting. It seems good, so I will save it inside LoRA. I will create a new folder for Flux LoRA and then save it there. This image-to-image generation node is not required now. Next, I will search for the LoRA node, which should be located between the model and the clip text encoder nodes. I can select the LoRA I downloaded just now. I will try to make some space for the LoRA node here in between. I will make a connection with a model and clip node. Clip output goes to both the prompt nodes. I will delete this connection, and the model should then go through the LoRA node. Hope this is clear. On Civit AI, I will look for some prompt ideas. The videos are for beginners, and this is how you should seek information. Our subject is Pikachu, and I believe this image should have the prompt I need. I will copy the trigger word and check how it is being used. We'll do a Control-F search, and it highlights the trigger words. So the prompt says, the left side of the face dissolves in, and then the trigger word. After that, shards of icy crystals and blue mist. This is what should happen when the LoRA starts working. I will copy and paste it inside the prompt box. I added Pikachu and changed the color of the mist. I think the prompt is ready. I will queue the workflow. The Q6 model should work on cards with 12 gigabytes of memory, and I have read that people with 8 gigabytes of VRAM can also use it. Please let me know in the comments if it works. I received the result, and it looks good. I had to make a few changes. I think the blue color came from icy crystals, so I decided to change it to yellow and golden current. It should work now. The blue color is gone, and the generated image looks good. I will select the nodes below that were used for image-to-image generation and connect them in the workflow. Make sure to use the VAE because this is a pixel image and needs to be encoded. I will decrease the denoising by 50% and queue the prompt. The fur is somewhat dissolved, but not much. I can try changing the denoising strength and adjusting the LoRA weights. Adding some weights in the prompt might improve the result, but remember that image generation is restricted by the given image. I tried using LoRA with BNB and F4 models, but the ComfyUI does not support those models. However, it works on Forge UI. I attempted to use custom nodes from outside, but there were errors. There are nodes in ComfyUI that claim to work, but I do not trust or install just any random node because, in the past, there have been hack attempts associated with certain nodes. I made a video on this topic. If you want to know the details, let's prioritize safety.